All of you all back to our seminar on the easy road from stress to bliss. We are on day 2 and we're discussing the topic today, blessings of bad luck. So, two things that are required to understand or to be able to handle bad luck, or to be able to rather see bad luck as a blessing. First is, we have to be able to recognize bad luck as an opportunity, and the second is that we should know how to respond to it even if it happens to us. Most people, they don't have the ability to recognize bad luck, recognize what miseries happen to us as something positive in our lives, and therefore they don't have the ability to respond in the right way. There was a man whose name was Richard Wiseman. He was a psychologist, and this man, he conducted an experiment to find out how exactly bad luck affects people, this concept of lucky and unlucky. So what he did was, he wanted to basically demonstrate that lucky people are lucky because of their approach and attitude towards chance, towards whatever happens to them, rather than just chance. So he advertised in the newspapers and in many magazines asking for people to volunteer. Especially he basically asked for people who consider themselves to be either lucky or unlucky to contact him for a research. So he said, if anybody feels they are exceptionally lucky or exceptionally unlucky, please come and contact us. We are doing a research. So about 400 people contacted him, and these 400 people, he gave them a newspaper, and he told them that in a certain amount of time, whatever time they would take, they are supposed to count the number of photos in the newspaper, and whatever amount of time they take to count the number of photos, the time will be noted, and what is their answer, the number of photos will be noted. So all of them began simultaneously. 400 people from different backgrounds, different socioeconomic status, different mindsets, different age groups. And after, when they started the experimentation, he found out a very interesting understanding. He found out that the people of the group that considered themselves to be unlucky, they took about 2 minutes to calculate, to find the total number of photos. And the group, the people who considered themselves to be lucky, they took few seconds practically to find the number of photos. So now, why such a big difference? Why those who consider themselves to be unlucky, they took 2 minutes or more, and those who considered themselves to be lucky took very less time, few seconds? Because this man, he had included within that, in the newspaper, one small box, somewhere in between the newspaper, which said, the total number of photos are 43, stop counting. This was on the second page itself. So those who consider themselves to be lucky, they are the ones who spotted that, and they counted 43 immediately without even actually turning the remaining pages. So essentially, handling bad luck, or rather being susceptible to the concept of luck, is not only based on chance, but also based on your attitude and your approach towards life. So now what we are going to discuss in the story of the Ramayana, we find that all that is going to happen to so many people in the Ramayana, Kaikeyi, Kaushalya, Ram, Sita, Dasharath, Lakshman, Sumantra, all these people, each one of them is going to go through a series of what we call as bad luck. And how each one responds to that bad luck in their lives, that actually determines whether they are actually lucky or they are unlucky. Or rather, how does luck manifest in their life? So yesterday we stopped our discussion by in the scene where Dasharath enters Kaikeyi's chambers and Kaikeyi is lying on the floor in her Kopagraha, the chamber of sulkiness. And as Kaikeyi is lying down, completely disheveled, completely in a fit of rage, ornaments thrown here and there, and Dasharath had come here with hope, and now he is feeling that he has to help Kaikeyi in her life, dealing with what she is going through. So immediately Dasharath went up to Kaikeyi and he started talking to her. He started asking her that, has anyone disrespected you? He wanted to find out what exactly is happening. Why is Kaikeyi lying down like this in the middle of apparently a normal life? He asked her, are you okay? Are you sick or something? If you are sick, just tell me what your symptoms are. I'll get the best of the royal physicians to treat you. And he said, all my people and including me, all of us are subservients to you. You have more authority over me than all my other people. And he said, your wish is my command. Just tell me what you want and I'll give it to you. And he said, do you want me to do a favor to somebody? Just tell me who it is and I'll do a favor to that person. He said, do you want me to kill an innocent person? Tell me whom to kill, I'll kill him. Do you want me to make a poor man rich or a rich man poor? Just tell me the name of the person and I'll do it. So he said, I may be the Lord of the world, but you are the mistress of my world. Can you understand what exactly is happening over here? Here is the king of the land, one of the leaders, and he is ready to go to any extent to satisfy one person's desire. These words that Dasharath spoke were actually not words spoken by Dasharath. Valmiki Muni says, he calls Dasharath at this juncture, when he addresses Dasharath, he doesn't call him Dasharath. He calls him as Mahayasha. Mahayasha means the one who has great fame. And then he calls him as Janadipaha, Jagatpati. That means the Lord of the world. Why does Valmiki Muni use these two words to address Dasharath over here? It's very interesting. Because at this point of time, Dasharath is Mahayasha and Jagatpati, and in spite of being Mahayasha and Jagatpati, he is influenced completely by lust, and because of the lust, he is telling the Kaikeyi that he can do anything for her and everything for her. The life of a leader is centered around accountability and not on privacy. By separating his world from the world, Dasharath is actually separating his privacy from his accountability. So, by telling Kaikeyi that I may be the master of the world, but you are the mistress of my world, he is just separating, his accountability from his privacy, which is not how a leader should behave. One time, a prince was going to be appointed as a king, and the old king, he called the Acharya, their teacher, to bless the prince and conduct the ceremony. The Acharya told the prince, go and have a bath and wear your new clothes and come. So the prince went, he had his princely bath, and after having his bath, he was wearing his new clothes. And just when he was halfway through his dressing, the Acharya sent a message to the prince and he said, I want you now. Come immediately. So the prince was very obedient to the Acharya, they had a lot of respect to the Acharya, and the prince just went half dressed to the Acharya. And as soon as the prince reached the Acharya, this man, he took out a whip and he hit the prince hard with the whip. And the prince was bleeding. Practically the whip cut through his skin. And again he hit him. Second time, a third time, fourth time, fifth time. By now, the prince was bleeding in his back, cuts, bruises, but the prince didn't open his mouth because they had great faith in the Acharya and they knew what he was doing, maybe having some reason. And then the ceremony happened. The prince became the king now. And once the prince became the king, the Acharya came to the king and he told him, now you punish me, now that you are a king. The prince asked him, why did you punish me first? Please tell me that. The Acharya said, I saw the need for punishing you. The prince said, did I make a mistake? The Acharya said, no, you didn't make any mistake. The prince said, if I didn't make any mistake, then why did you punish me? The Acharya said, I punished you to teach you a lesson. And the prince asked, what lesson? And this man said, you are born in a royal family. And because you are born in a royal family, you have never experienced pain in your life. And because you have never experienced pain in your life, when you as a king have to give decisions to give punishment and pain to others, without knowing what is pain, you will not be able to do good justice. So I made you go through pain before you became a king, so that before you actually give pain to others, you know what pain is. And then you'll be careful whom to give and whom not to give pain. So a leader is not a leader only of himself. The leader is a leader of the world. And naturally, being such a powerful leader, he has to be very careful of how he deals with others. And he cannot be careful of how he deals with others if he cannot empathize with the pains that they go through. Dasharath at this point of time, he was completely bewildered and completely surrendered to his wife Kaikeyi. And as soon as Kaikeyi realized that Dasharath is going to do anything and everything for her, she jumped up. She was sleeping, suddenly she jumped up and she stood. And she started speaking in a rapid voice, with her voice escalating. She started telling, today the king of Ayodhya, Dasharath, he has made a promise. And the promise that he has made is that he has promised to do whatever I say. And she started saying, I invoke the celestials to come here and listen. I invoke the Gandharvas, I invoke the demigods, I invoke the Apsaras, I invoke so... And she kept naming so many people that she invoking. Dasharath got bewildered. Dasharath thinking, what's happening over here? I was just having a normal conversation with her, and she made it such a big drama suddenly, Dasharath, he got completely bewildered. Then Kaikeyi said, if you remember, many years back, I had saved your life 2 times. And because I had saved your life 2 times during the war with Shambharasura, you had given me 2 boons. Do you remember them? Dasharath said, of course, please ask me what you want. And she said, with the first boon, I ask the throne of Ayodhya for my son Bharat. And with the second boon, I want Ram to be exiled to the forest for 14 years. Let him live as an ascetic, wearing tree barks and deer skin, and have matted hair. That's all I want. These 2 boons of Kaikeyi, which she asked, struck Dasharath like 2 daggers on his back. Dasharath practically collapsed on the ground, felt unconscious. He couldn't believe what he had just heard. And just to make sure that Dasharath got the message clearly, Kaikeyi kept poking that dagger again and again by telling that truthfulness is more important than any other virtue in the world. You have given a promise, make sure that you follow that promise. And as she kept speaking this, Dasharath, he felt that his life is leaving him practically. His life is departing from him. He felt weak and practically he collapsed on the ground and he was writhing in pain. As Dasharath was going through such a pain and weakness, he was thinking, I had come down to pacify her, and now who's going to pacify me? In a few moments the scene had changed. When Dasharath came down, she was lying on the ground and Dasharath was standing. Now Dasharath is lying on the ground and she is standing. The environment in which we are affects us a lot. Just takes a minute out and start thinking how the environment which we create makes us take decisions in life. So, have you ever wondered why pubs are dark and classrooms are bright? Have you ever wondered why In gyms, they put up pictures of powerful, strong, muscled people. And in beauty parlors, they put pictures of beautiful people. In a dentist chambers, they put pictures of smiling people. The environment in which you are, it affects your consciousness and it creates thoughts of a particular type. So, the most amazing thing is that the two biggest epics of India, Mahabharata and Ramayan, both essentially show us stories of people who have made the biggest decisions of their life in the wrong environments. In the Mahabharata, we find the story of Bhishma taking his vow of lifelong celibacy and never getting married in an environment where Satyavati, she instigated Bhishma to take that vow so that she can fulfill the lust of Shantanu. So here in the Mahabharata, Satyavati created an environment of ignorance and darkness in which Bhishma entered. And Bhishma was overconfident on his abilities to satisfy, Satyavati's desire. And here in the Ramayana, we find Dasharatha was overconfident in his ability to satisfy Kaikeyi's desire. So Kaikeyi created an environment of ignorance and darkness by lying down in that chamber and really making a drama of it. And Satyavati created an environment of darkness and ignorance by invoking the lust of Shantanu. And by taking the promise, Bhishma and Dasharatha never analyzed the consequences. And the most amazing thing is, both of them never consulted anybody before taking the promise. Dasharatha never consulted anybody, and Bhishma also never consulted him. They just took a promise on their own, just based on their overconfidence. And the result is a disaster. The result is that Hastinapur became insecure because of the vow of Bhishma, and the result now is that Ayodhya is going to become insecure because of the vow of Dasharatha. And therefore, the environment in which we take decisions affects our decisions. Therefore, the right decisions have also always to be taken not in overconfidence and not in the wrong environment and not alone. The mighty Dasharatha was lying on the marble floor, weak and unconscious. And he was feeling like a deer who has been paralyzed by a lion. He was writhen in pain. And he started gasping, he started letting out long sighs. And Dasharatha, he asked Kaikeyi, do you want to annihilate the Ikshvaku race by taking this decision? And he said, I feel after so many years of being married to you, I have married a snake, I have not married a woman. And he says, I never knew that below the honey-coated skin was such a sinister person lying. And he said, are you sure you are not controlled by any other person or by some evil spirit? It doesn't look like you. So many years I know you are not behaving like this ever in your life, and suddenly how you are behaving like this? Dasharatha never knew Manthara is controlling her. But essentially, when someone's spirit influences your action, you are said to be possessed by a ghost. And when someone's thoughts influence your actions, it is called possessed by a concept. When a spirit possesses you, your behavior changes. But when malicious thoughts possess you, your intention changes along with your behavior. So Kaikeyi, she immediately snarled back at Dasharatha, telling that I am not controlled by anyone. And she said, neither am I haunted by any evil spirit. The only thing that is haunting me is a question. The question that is haunting me is that, is my husband, the king of Ayodhya and the protector of Dharma, a liar? Can you imagine, the way Kaikeyi's mindset has become? Dasharatha said, at least take back one of your wishes. I have no problem in Ram becoming the king of, in Bharat becoming the king of Ayodhya. But please why do you have to have Ram go away to the forest? Why do you want Ram to go to the forest for 14 years? And she said, all these years you have been saying that Ram is better than Bharat. from Kaikeyi's point of view, she always said, Ram treats me more respectfully than Bharat. Ram serves me more than Bharat. All these years you have been telling that, and suddenly what has happened? And he said, don't you understand that even the innocent children of Ayodhya love Ram? And he said, if you actually insist on what you are telling, then what you will be attracting is shame. Famine leads to a lifetime of hunger, and infamy leads to a lifetime of disrespect. So insufficient rain for a long period of time leads to famine, and insufficient control over one's action or even a single wrong step leads to infamy. Dasharath said, I can't live without Ram. And she said, if you want these two things, that means I'm going to die. There is no other way it's going to happen. Dasharath was lying on the floor and he was feeling completely helpless. And this lady, she was just standing, she walked off from where her husband was. When Kaikeyi was lying down, Dasharath was coming to somehow the other pacify her and help her get up. And now when Dasharath is lying down, Kaikeyi just walks off, goes in another direction. So she says, a person who says one thing and does something else, he lacks integrity. And he said, later on, when the great sages come to know that you have not satisfied your promise, if you have not fulfilled your promise, what will they think? They will think that because of your attachment to your son, you are not able to fulfill your promise. And she started quoting stories. She said, don't you remember Shibhi? There was a king in your ancestry whose name was Shibhi. Shibhi had promised a pigeon protection. And when an eagle came to attack that pigeon, Shibhi cut off flesh from his own thighs equal to the weight of the pigeon and gave it to that eagle. And he said, you're in the same ancestry as Shibhi. She's telling him, can't you fulfill your promise? I'm not asking for your flesh. And she said, there was another king named Alarka. So Alarka had also promised a boon to a blind Brahmana. And the blind Brahmana wanted Alarka's eyes, the king's eyes. And the king removed his eyes and gave it to the blind Brahmana just so that he fulfills his promise. And Kaikeyi is telling Dasharath, I am only asking Ram to go away. I am not telling you to give your flesh, nor am I telling you to give your eyes. Can you imagine what Kaikeyi is telling? Actually, from Dasharath's point of view, she was telling him to give his flesh also and his eyes also. Because the moment Ram goes away, Dasharath will die. And the moment Ram goes away, his eyes are useless, can't see anything else. He doesn't want to see anything else. So then she started describing the glories of truth. She started giving a big sermon on how important truth is and how the Vedas glorify truth like anything. The scriptures are like gold. Gold can be molded to any shape and form. Similarly, the knowledge of the scriptures can be molded to justify any cause. You tell me what you want, there is a quote in the scripture to prove that. So, if your intention is wrong, if your intention is malified, then no point in referring to the scripture. Because the scripture will give you something to justify your intention exactly. And then Dasharath started saying, you're like a hunter who plays a flute, a sweet melody to attract a deer. And when the deer comes to him, he kills the deer. And he tells her that so long I've kept you in my custody without understanding you're like a rope. And I've been holding this rope for such a long time, and this very same rope is going to be used to strangle me and kill me. So he said, Bharat is a pure person, a pure-hearted person. Bharat will never accept a kingdom in this way. And if Bharat accepts the kingdom in this way, then I reject him as my son. He cannot perform my last rites. And he said, what kind of a wife are you? You desire death of your husband. So essentially, Dasharath, he burst out in anger, trying to somehow or the other make Kaikeyi understand. And when Dasharath understood that Kaikeyi is just not understanding his anger, he fell at her feet. The monarch of the world, the king of the world, lying at the feet of Kaikeyi, he was practically holding her feet and crying tears on her feet. Can you imagine? And Kaikeyi just doesn't budge. And then Dasharath falls down on the ground, crying and weeping, shivering in fear. The lesson that we learn from this episode is that an ideal marriage is when a wife and husband just does not reside in the same house, but when they house the same desires. More important than physically holding hands is holding each other's desires. So marriage is a ceremony that essentially aligns desires. Each one of us have needs. When our needs are not met, anger arises. Over here, Kaikeyi is having two needs. And when Dasharath is not ready to fulfill her two needs, she becomes angry. And Dasharath has one need. And Kaikeyi is not ready to fulfill that one need, he becomes angry. So essentially, each one of us have some need. And the essence of good relationship is that somehow or the other, we have to help one another fulfill our needs, at least the most important ones. And the relationship where a person doesn't recognize the other person's need at all, that relationship is a useless one. There's a very interesting story, a very sweet story, about a man who was standing in front of a mall. He was wiping his car, and just as he was washing his car, he was waiting for somebody. A beggar came and stood next to him. So this man, when you look at a beggar, when a beggar comes to you, sometimes you feel like giving and sometimes you don't feel like giving. So he was just hoping that this beggar doesn't come to ask him anything. So this beggar came and just stood next to him and just kept watching him. And after a few minutes, the beggar said, "You have a nice car." And this man, he didn't know what to say. He said, "Thank you." And he kept working. And he somehow or the other expected a plea to come. He expected the beggar to ask for something, make a request. And the beggar just didn't ask anything. He was just standing over there watching him. Finally, he said, "Let me only ask." So he said, "Do you need something? Do you need some help?" And naturally, he expected that from the beggar will say, "Yes, I need some money. I would need some food," something like that. And the beggar only said one statement that hit this man so hard that it really transformed his life completely. The beggar said, this man asked a question, "Do you need something? Do you need some help?" The beggar said, "Don't we all? Don't we all need something?" That's it. This man, he began to think philosophically now. The beggar made a point which was so simple but yet so profound. The beggar may need money, the beggar may need food, but a person who has a car, who has money, he also needs something else. Life is a life where a person recognizes the fact that I am dependent on others. When a person feels that I don't need anybody else and I don't need anyone else, that kind of a life is a life where relationships cannot be made. Human beings cannot work properly, cannot function properly when you feel that I don't need anybody else. A life of a good relationship is where there is interdependence. I need something and you're there to fulfill my need, and you need something and I'm there to fulfill your need. That's what a family is about. That's what good relationships are about. Fights will always happen. There is no family in this world where fight doesn't happen. In fact, without fights, life becomes boring sometimes. You need some, can you imagine a perfect family? A husband comes home and the children open the door. They say, "Papa, we are very happy," they're smiling, and then the mother is dressed perfectly, and the brother, he shares his property with the other brother, he shares his wealth with the other brother, and before you come on the table, the food is ready, set, every day is your favorite food, and when you get up, you throw things here and there, and as soon as you come back from the bathroom, it's clean, nicely tidied around. This is not a home, this is a hotel. When you get down in a hotel, somebody opening the car for you and smiling, nicely dressed with a mustache. And then you go in, there is a nicely dressed lady smiling. What can I do for you, sir? And then the air hostess in the flight, she smiles at you. And in the hotel, everything is perfectly fine. The menu is never wrong. The items that are cooked, salt is never less, never more. Everything is perfect. Will you live in the hotel for life? Nobody wants to live in a hotel for life, though everything is perfect over there. Why? Essentially, house means full-fledged movie. There has to be some romance, there has to be some fight, there has to be some boring moments. In fact, no individuals can live without having no fight. It's not possible only. So essentially, human beings means there will be some fight or other. How much ever you fight today, you must shamelessly smile next day morning. That's what life is. So essentially, family is not like a finals where once you lose, you're knocked out. You can't come back again. Family is not like that kind of matches. Family is like league matches. If you lose today, you have a chance tomorrow also. One more day is there. So just because you have a great time today, you can't predict what will happen tomorrow. Family is like a weather system. In a weather system, at least there is some predictability. In family, there is no predictability at all. So essentially, in a family, we can't say the weather today. We can say the weather now. Because next moment, who will get upset, who will get, we don't know. Anything can happen anytime, The one thing is, when fights happen, don't take fights too personally. As long as we learn to not take fights too personally, soon everything will come back to normalcy. The moment the whole understanding and intentions changes, having wrong actions is not the problem, but having wrong intentions is definitely a problem. So here, Dashrath was lying on the floor all night long, and Kaikeyi has been cold all night long. The next day morning, the previous night, if you remember, we were discussing, Dashrath was waiting for the sun to rise. And this night, Dashrath was hoping the sun doesn't rise. How life changes in a matter of one day. In one day, everything in life changes. This is how life is. Life is never predictable. Life is always unpredictable. But how do you handle the unpredictability of life? That determines whether you succeed in life or fail in life. So, the next day morning, the royal musicians and the royal bards, they came to wake up Dashrath, the king and the queen, according to, the stately traditions. Dashrath waved them off. What is the meaning of royal traditions when loyal traditions have not been kept? So, one can enjoy luxuries as long as mind is peaceful. But the day mind is not peaceful, the only thing you want is peace. Luxuries you don't want. Human beings look for luxuries after peace is there. But when peace itself is not there, nobody looks for luxuries. People look for peace first. So here, Dashrath, he was feeling like a horse that had been flogged with a mace constantly, and all night long receiving these floggings, receiving these beatings. He was just hoping and praying that somehow or other Ram comes. So he just made a request, please summon Ram, please call Ram, and he fainted again. So on another corner of the city, on this corner of the city, Dashrath is, frustrated with the rising of the sun. Another corner of the city, Vashishta, the teacher of the demigods, the teacher of the Ikshvaku dynasty, he was standing in a river praying to the sun god, thanking the sun for rising and bringing hope to Ayodhya. And then he went ahead into the city, made all the arrangements for the coronation, and he told Sumantra, go and call the king. So Sumantra, he went to the palace of Dashrath, and he found that Dashrath was not there. The previous day, Sumantra had already seen on the face of Dashrath there was some disturbance. So he knew if there is a disturbance, means Dasharath will go to Kaikeyi's palace. So the minister straight went to the palace of Kaikeyi. Sumantra is a Suta or a chariot driver by birth. But because Sumantra had so much wisdom and so much intelligence, Sumantra was made as the prime minister of Dasharath. Can you imagine a chariot driver becoming a prime minister? This is the first instance before a chaiwala became prime minister, you know. But the most amazing thing in this story is that though Sumantra was a chariot driver, became a prime minister, he continued being a chariot driver. It's amazing. The prime minister of the kingdom still driving chariot for the king. This happens only in Ayodhya. This doesn't happen in India, you know. So birth only provides you facility, but not the ability to become qualified. So Sumantra, he was born in a family of a chariot driver, but to become qualified, he worked hard. Sumantra had free access anywhere in the kingdom. He could go into the bedroom of the king also anytime. Can you imagine what kind of free access he had? And Sumantra, he slipped in and out of any place of the kingdom, but he made sure he never misused his powers. Because he always remembered where he came from. Because he always remembered where he came from, he never misused his powers and never overemphasized his powers. So he went to Dasharath and he started asking Dasharath that, my dear king, time has come for the coronation. Please come. Dasharath looked at Sumantra. He was practically half dead, crying all night. He looked at Sumantra and he said, on normal days your words fill me with happiness. Today your words seem like you are flogging a dead horse. Sumantra got bewildered. He didn't know what had happened the whole night, you know. He looked at Kaikeyi and Kaikeyi told him, don't worry, king is too happy about the coronation of Ram, and because he was so excited, he didn't sleep all night. And because he didn't sleep all night, now he is tired. And his fatigue will go away when Ram comes. Go and call Ram. So now Sumantra went out of the palace because he was being told to call Ram. And when he went out of the palace, all the Brahmanas were standing over there and they were asking Sumantra, where is the king? Now Sumantra didn't have an answer. He went back to Dasharath to ask him, you know, are you sure you want Ram now? Because it's time for the coronation now. Dasharath got wild. The reason Sumantra went back was because Dasharath didn't tell him to get Ram, but Kaikeyi told him to get Ram. So Sumantra went back to Dasharath just to reconfirm. And as soon as Sumantra went back, Dasharath shouted at him so badly with a raised voice. He said, what's wrong with you? Why don't you just follow her advice? Get Ram at this moment. King's, Dasharath's voice and the Dasharath's tone completely bewildered Sumantra. And what's the problem? Manoj? You want the AC on? I think you could sit under some fan, that will be more easier because most people are not comfortable with the AC. You put the AC on for 5 minutes and put it off probably. So the king's irritation completely unsettled Sumantra and he felt like a ball being tossed around here and there. You know, the Brahmanas are telling him get the king is telling him get Ram, Kaikeyi is telling him get Ram. So he was completely confused. He said, if I am anyway have to be a ball, might as well be a ball in Ram's hand. And he said, let me go and fall over there. You know, he was happy to go to Ram's palace. So when Sumantra entered Ram's palace, something interesting was happening. So Ram, he was sitting on a swing along with Mother Sita and they were having a nice conversation. And Sita actually was fanning Ram very lovingly. And when Ram and Sita saw Sumantra, both of them just got up and stood reverentially. Sumantra, he said, Ayushman, giving blessings. It's very interesting, one person doing so many roles. He's a chariot driver, he's a minister, he is giving blessings as a senior, and at the same time he is respectful as a junior. So, doing multiple roles is very easy when there is clarity in the mind. So Sumantra, he told Ram that king and queen Kaikeyi have summoned you. Ram turned towards Mother Sita and made a statement. A very interesting statement. He told Sita that father and mother surely want to do something good for us. And he got up and was going away. After telling that, Ram smiled at Sita. And Sita smiled back at Ram. And after smiling, Ram walked away along with Sumantra and he went to the exit. He walked out, but he turned back again. And he turned back and looked at Mother Sita, took out the garland from his neck and put it on Mother Sita's neck, and smiled again at her. And Sita smiled at him, and she weaved a garland, imaginary garland around Ram. And then Ram smiled and he went into the chariot and went along with Sumantra back. Sumantra, he was seeing this, something happening between Ram and Sita. He assumed it is like a loving conversation between husband and wife. There was a deep communication happening between Ram and Sita. Most of the time, what is the meaning of communication? Most people feel communication means talking to one another. In today's time and age, when a husband and wife talk, even after talking, you can't understand what is happening. What the other person wants to say, you can't understand. So you have to shout. After shouting also, you can't understand what the other person is trying to say. That is the state in today's world of communication, you know. So when the deepest need in a human being is the need to be understood. Essentially, there are many ways in which you can communicate. When we study communication skills in schools and colleges, what are we taught essentially? Reading, writing, and we are taught speaking skills. But we are never ever taught listening skills. We have one mouth and two ears, which means we have to speak less and hear more. Unfortunately, we use the mouth more and ears less. And therefore, communication is bad in society today. So, Ram and Sita, without talking anything, they were communicating so much. Because within the heart, there was a lot of trust and deep understanding of each other's intentions. So, Sita, so there are four principles that we need to understand how to communicate better and how to stay away from bad attitudes. The first principle is that we should embrace the habit of seeing others good and refrain from criticizing one another. So Ram told Sita that parents want to do something good for us, which means good relationships begin by helping each other see good in all aspects of life. So the first thing in good communication is that, to be able to communicate really well, is that it will help one another see good intentions or good in whatever negative or positive that happens in life. What is friendship? What is good relationship? Good friendship or good relationship means even if my eyes report an action that is questionable, I don't doubt your intention. Even if my eyes report an action that is questionable, I don't doubt the intention. Because I have disciplined my intelligence not to judge you. That's what relationship is about. The second thing that we learn from this story is that when Sita looked at Ram and smiled at him, so when Ram told that mother and father have something to do something good for us, Sita smiled at Ram. Why? Sita indicate that no matter what happens in life, as long as I'm with you, I'm happy. I'm not interested in things to find happiness. I'm interested in being with you to find happiness. So Sita smiled and Ram put a garland around Sita. She was telling Mother Sita that, so she was essentially telling him that in all phases of life, whether it is good or sad phases of life, being together is happiness and not being together is sadness. And then when Ram put a garland around her, he was telling her, my dear Sita, when I'm going from here, I'm going as a king. But when I come back, I'm going to come back as a beggar. Will you still accept me? The only thing that I'll have to give you after that is a garland, forest flowers and leaves. Will you still accept me? Sita smiled at him, telling him that the third thing that we need to understand in good communication is the most important thing to be able to communicate well is if you can understand the other person's value. So Sita told Ram, for me, things don't matter. The most valuable thing in my life is not all these palaces and all these riches and resources. The most valuable thing in my life is you. As long as I am with you, I don't care if I don't have resources. I don't care if I don't have riches. And finally, Sita is known as Sudikshana. Sudikshana essentially means the one who has both skill and strength. So Sita was telling Ram that by weaving a garland around Ram, she was telling Ram that during his tough times, so she has been with him during the joy, happy times in life, but during the tough times in life also, I am going to be with you. The real strength of a woman is not just in being together during joyous situations, but giving support during the tough times of life. So the skill and strength that Sita had was not just during the good times, but also during the bad times. And therefore, when one blames the other person, what is the meaning of blaming somebody for something going wrong in your life? Blaming somebody else means excusing yourself. In relationships, you have to remember this very beautiful quote that I read somewhere. In the left part of the brain, nothing is right. And in the right part of the brain, nothing is left. Still everyone thinks I am right. The biggest problem in communication and good relationships is the ego. Sorry, when you know that I am right, you know what it means. Saying sorry when you know I am right, it means that I value you and my relationship with you over my opinion, over what is right and wrong. So essentially, in relationships, the most important factor that one has to remember is ego has to be eliminated. Whenever there is ego in a relationship, the relationship cannot function. So here, in the communication between Ram and Sita, there is a very important concept that is coming out. All of us in our childhood, we would have heard of the story of the hen that laid the golden egg. You know, the farmer, he had a hen that laid a golden egg. But that story has a very important purport in our lives, which we have to understand. Essentially, the farmer was ready to focus on the short-time goal, short-time achievements, and ready to sacrifice the long-term consequences. In relationships also, we have to remember that as long as we are willing to sacrifice our short-time achievements in pursuit of long-time pursuits, relationships will survive. Good communication is about being ready to let go all the short-term rights and wrongs, the short-term opinions for the sake of the long term of the relationship. So Ram, he went with Sumantra to the palace of Dasharath, and when Ram stepped out of his own palace, Lakshman also followed him, and Lakshman took his umbrella over Lord Ram's head, because Ram is going to become the king eventually. And then he took a fan, whisk, and was whisking Ram with a fly whisk. And then both of them on the chariot, and thousands of people of Ayodhya are following the chariot, going towards the palace of Dasharath, where Dasharath is. And the thousands of people are just hopeful that this person is going to become the king. And when they climbed the chariot, and when they proceeded ahead, practically it seemed like the entire ocean was taking this boat, the chariot, towards its destination. So Ram went inside, and as soon as he entered the chamber of Dasharath, he stood down with hands folded and his body bent a little, and then he put his fingers on his mouth. Very interesting why Ram stood in that posture. Folding the hands is a mudra known as Vinaya mudra. Vinaya Mudra means this symbolizes humility. Humility essentially means I have a desire to hear and not speak. So he put his hand in front of his mouth, telling that in front of superiors, you should not have the desire to speak, but rather you desire to hear, follow the instructions. So just by that one posture, Ram was indicating that I am ready to follow whatever happens now. Can you imagine what kind of sensitivity and intelligence that is? So Ram observed a stark difference inside and outside. Outside the palace, there were people who loved him and accepted him. And inside the palace were people he loved, but they were going to reject him. Outside the palace were people who were expecting him to lead. And inside the palace were people who were expecting him to follow. Ram saw something that shocked him. His father, the king of Ayodhya, was lying on the floor, practically unconscious. Old clothes, disheveled hair, and first time in the life of Ram, he is seeing his father lying on the floor like that, the king of Ayodhya. And Kaikeyi was standing a little distance away from Dasharath, completely aloof. And in her eyes, Ram could see a combination of anger, sternness and cruelty. She didn't seem composed, but she seemed very firm. And Dasharath, lying on the floor, he was chanting the names of Ram, helplessly. And for 1 second, Dasharath opened his eyes. And then 1 second he looked at Ram, and Ram could read what is in the eyes of Dasharath. Inside the eyes of Dasharath, Ram saw an ocean of suffering. Almost as if Dasharath was drowning in this sea of sorrow. So, when our eyes can reveal to us what is outside. But when others see our eyes, they reveal to us what is inside our mind. So, eyes are balconies that allow others to see the drama that is unfolding within. So, first time Ram saw that his presence was causing distress to Dasharath. Dasharath was becoming miserable seeing Ram. And Ram looked at Kaikeyi and asked, what is wrong with my father? Is he suffering with some disease? Is something disturbing him mentally? Has some inauspiciousness happened to Bharat or my mother or to Shatrughna? Or have you spoken something harsh out of anger or pride? And he said, Ram was telling Kaikeyi, it is not possible to become happy at all times in life. But whenever it is possible, in whatever means it is possible, one should try to help others become happy. Can you imagine? There is a stark difference in the way Ram was responding to Dasharath's misery and Dasharath responded previous day to Kaikeyi's misery. Ram was very clear, I can't help in every situation. It is not possible to be happy in every situation in life. But we should not give up also. We should not stop trying to be happy. So there is a very big difference in the mindsets of Dasharath and mindsets of Ram. Kaikeyi told Ram that a son is born to solve a father's dilemma. Now it is your time to prove whether you are a worthy son, Ram. And Kaikeyi told Ram about the 2 boons that he had given her, and that she had decided to claim the 2 boons. And Kaikeyi told Ram, the only thing that your father is worried right now is about your reaction. Only if you promise to do whatever he says. Whatever is being told to you, if you promise to do it, then he will speak it up. That is the only thing that is expected. Ram got shocked. Ram told Kaikeyi, my father's command is everything for me. If he tells me to do anything, I am ready to do. He says that at my father's command, if he tells me to enter fire, for me it will be like entering a cool pond. If my father tells me to consume poison, it will be like licking honey. If he tells me to drown in the sea, for me it will be like liberation. So Ram is telling Kaikeyi, my father's command is everything for me. Just tell me what my father wants and I'll do it. And he says, the world knows me as Ekavachani, Ekapatni and Ekabana. That means Ram is known for 1 arrow, 1 word and 1 wife. Ram never speaks the second word. which means that whatever he speaks is the truth. And once he releases the arrow, he doesn't, make a mistake. He releases the arrow and the arrow hits the mark. And Ekapatni Vrata means he's taken a vow of being married to only one person. So Kaikeyi, she became so stern. She became actually happy hearing Ram's words. And Kaikeyi told Ram that your father asked for two boons. He has asked that Bharat become the king of Ayodhya and you be sent to forest for 14 years. After hearing this, on the face of Ram, there was absolutely no change in expression. No disappointment, no frustration, no happiness. Same, exactly the same expression it was 1 second before. So Kaikeyi, so Ram, he tells Kaikeyi, let my father's wish be fulfilled. The only thing I don't understand is that, why is my father not telling me this directly? Why he is not able to tell this directly? I would do anything for him. And he tells that Kaikeyi tells him, your father is ashamed at this point of time because he finds too difficult to talk to you directly. So he says, as soon as you leave Ayodhya, he'll become normal. Kaikeyi is telling Ram this, can you imagine? And he tells him that I suggest, because you are so enthusiastic to go right away. You don't have to wait for Bharat to come and become the king. And she tells him, your father, till you leave Ayodhya, forgets, becoming happy. Your father will not even eat anything, not even bathe, nor will he even breathe till you leave Ayodhya. Dasharath is hearing all this. He is so helpless and he is so much in pain, unable to bear the pain. He starts saying, he tells how much suffering can a human being endure. Saying this, he collapses. And Ram, he is very cool, very composed, absolutely unaffected. Ram tells, you have not understood me at all. There is no greater pleasure for me than fulfilling the words of my father. You need not have involved him at all. If you had just told me instead of my father, go to forest, I would have gone. I am not interested in ruling a kingdom. I am not seeking any fortune. And nor am I going to seek the sympathy of the citizens of Ayodhya for the throne. Ram says, I always wanted to be a hermit, staying in the forest and learning under the sages. He said, you have made my wish true. Now these 14 years will not be 14 years of exile, but there will be 14 years of learning. And he says, just give me enough time to tell Sita and Kaushalya and I'll walk out. And then Ram immediately walks out of the room. When an eagle is attacked by a group of crows, the eagle doesn't fight with the crows. He chooses to fly much higher than the crows can come. Ram, rather than trying to delve into a negative situation and try to solve it, Ram decided to focus on the positivity that is waiting for him. When one tries to sort out negativities that happen in life, one becomes very muddled up. Instead, when one focuses on the positivities, one is able to soar much higher. So Ram walked out of the palace. Sumantra couldn't believe what had happened. He couldn't believe that just now what transpired between the three of them. He just followed Ram silently. In a few moments, the world of Ram had changed. And as he walked out, as he walked in, he was supposed to be the king. And as he walked out, he became a beggar. The weight of one desire had turned the king into a beggar. Actually, Ram felt relieved. He felt relieved because he had a big burden to lift. The burden of Ayodhya and also now the burden of his father's words. And he felt light that he could at least ease his father's pain. And he just walked away alone. And as Ram was walking away, outside, Lakshman had heard everything that was happening inside. Lakshman was furious. He was boiling in anger. And Ram saw Lakshman jumping in anger practically. Ram was thinking how to deal with him. Because outside, there were thousands of people waiting. And Lakshman is angry over here. How do you deal with an angry person in front of public? Here is an answer. Ram walked away as if Lakshman didn't exist. Ram didn't even look at Lakshman, forget speaking to Lakshman. Because the worst place to help an angry person is in front of a public gathering. And the worst way to deal with an angry person is to discuss. When they are most agitated, essentially. So by walking away, Ram didn't allow Lakshman to express his anger at all. And he didn't give a chance to Lakshman to even say anything. Lakshman just got bewildered. He was boiling like fire, and suddenly he felt like a cool, river just blown past him. He didn't know what to do. And he helplessly began to run behind Ram. And as he was running behind Ram, he took the umbrella and the whisk. Ram said, he just waved his hand. And Lakshman, his umbrella and the fan and the whisk was below, following Ram, tears running down his cheeks. And as Ram was walking out, there were thousands of people waiting below. And Ram was right on top of all the steps. And Ram was looking below at all of them. And then all the people were bowing down to Ram. And Ram started looking at the sun. He had a thought. The sun can have no attachment to any particular tract of land. The sun has to constantly travel to all tracts of land on the earth. And Ram is the representative of the sun. He is a representative of the solar dynasty. And just like the sun, Ram realized it is time to follow the nature of the sun now. To associate and to serve people in far off places. And then he closed his eyes and he kind of summoned all the strength that he needed to be able to handle this. And people below, they were commenting. One man said, Ram looks more effulgent after coming out of the palace than when he went in. Another man said that I can describe the beauty of Ram when he walked into the palace, but I cannot describe the beauty of Ram when he came out of the palace. Another man said when Ram went into the palace, his face was as beautiful as a closed lotus. And when he came out of the palace, his face has become more beautiful than a fully blown lotus. People were just wondering, how come Ram has become more beautiful now? Can you imagine a person, one moment before he was supposed to be the king, and one moment later he's become a beggar? What will he be going through? You probably should talk to those people who have lost a lot in the stock market. One moment lost crores of rupees. That's the exact experience here that Ram is having. But the face of Ram, there is absolutely no change in expression. So Ram was totally calm and unaffected. But the people, when they saw some Lakshmana, Shatrugna and Sumantra come and stand on both sides of Ram, they got bewildered completely. Sumantra was crying tears, Lakshmana was crying tears, Lakshmana was holding the umbrella and the whisk below. People just couldn't understand what's happening on top. And more confusing than everything else was Ram's sober expression, unaffected expression. From Ram's expression, they couldn't find out anything, but from expression of Lakshmana and Sumantra, they could understand something has gone wrong here. Ram, though everybody below started crying. They didn't know why they were crying, but they started crying. Ram climbed down the steps. He avoided the royal chariot and he started walking. So people, they began to discuss among themselves, what's happening? Why is Ram not accepting any of the royal paraphernalia? He's walking. But what confused people most was that Ram started walking towards the area of the coronation. So they were thinking, if a king has rejected the throne, rejected all the paraphernalia of a king, why is he going to the place of coronation? Everybody silently followed Ram. Ram went to the place of the coronation. All the paraphernalia had been kept for the coronation ceremony. Ram circumvented the paraphernalia 3 times and walked out. Ayodhya broke into a big cry. Everybody understood by this time that Ram had decided not to become the king. Practically everyone started crying. And at this point of time, when Ram walked out, nobody followed Ram except Lakshman. And Lakshman, without the 2 things that he was carrying, walked alone behind Ram. How do you handle reversals in life? One time, a marble on the floor, he started talking to the deity, which was also a marble. he started telling the deity, this is not fair. Why you are being worshipped by people and people are standing on me? Both of us came together in the same truck from the same place. And both of us had the same master before, and now people stand on me and worship you, respect you. This is not fair. The deity marble said, when the sculptor came to you, you said you can't handle blows. You can't handle blows of the chisel. You wanted an easy life. And I took so many blows and I took so much pain. Now people are respecting me and paying obeisances to me to appreciate that effort of mine. Unless we allow our past to chisel us, we can't be something in future. So most people look at the past with regret. But one who is grateful to the past, they are the ones who can actually do something valuable in life. How do you handle success and failures? In the Gita, Krishna says, Sukha dukkha samaya kritva labha labha jaya jayo. He says a person who is equanimous is a person who sees dualities in a similar way. Sukha and dukkha, happiness and misery. Labha alabha, gain and loss. And jaya vijaya, jaya ajaya, victory and defeat. So person who is equanimous is a person who can see opposites, dualities equally. Krishna had spoken this in the Gita. But if you study Krishna's life, Krishna didn't follow too many things that he spoke in the Gita, But Ram did everything that Krishna spoke in the Gita. So if you want to study Ram's life and Krishna's words. Don't study Krishna's life and Ram's words. So essentially, Ram, in this particular episode, he shows how one should handle success and failure equally. 4 situations in Ram's life teaches us 4 ways or 4 aspects of how to handle reversals in life. When Ram was traveling with Vishwamitra Muni, he was sleeping on the forest floor without any bed. So essentially, the lack of comforts and austerities did not bother Ram at that point of time. So the first key in being able to handle negative reversals positively is flexibility. When Ram broke the bow of Lord Shiva, Sita came to garland him. But in presence of such a beautiful girl for whom thousands of people have fought wars, Ram said, I can't marry her because he chose to focus on principles. He wanted Dasharath's approval before marrying. The second thing that we need to be able to handle reversals positively is focus amidst beautiful temptations. In midst of temptations, if you know how to focus, then you can handle reversals positively. And when Ram was informed that he would be coronated as a king of Ayodhya the previous day, and so he spent the entire night focusing on how to handle that responsibility. So sudden access to wealth, sudden access to power didn't make him happy. Awareness of the power of responsibility is the third key to be able to handle negativities effectively. And the next day, when Ram was told to walk to the forest, go on exile, Ram didn't become disturbed. He remained undisturbed. Sudden loss or failure did not agitate him. So steadiness amidst failure is the fourth key to be able to handle reversals positively. Essentially, we have to understand that everything in this world will go. One time a king came to a prison house, and there were hundreds of prisoners in the prison house, and the king made an announcement. He said, today is my birthday. I want to give freedom to all of you all, but on one condition. So now everyone was excited. What is this condition on which the king is going to release all of us? The king said, if any of you all can give me a gift which will make me happy during sad times and sad during happy times, I'll release all of you all. Now everybody was in anxiety, What is that gift which will make a king happy during sad times and sad during happy times? They were all thinking too much. And one old prisoner said, I will do it. And the old prisoner took a ring and gave it to the king. The king, he said, let me see if I actually feel happy during sad times and sad during happy times. After a few days, the king returned and he set all of them free. So everybody wanted to know what was there in that ring and how it happened. In that ring, there was only one statement written. This too shall pass away. So the king was happy. One day he looked at that ring. This too shall pass away. He became sad. And one day the king was sad. He looked at that ring. This too shall pass away. He became happy. And the king released everyone. Essentially in life, when there is happiness, very soon sadness is going to come. And right now when there is sadness, be rest assured happiness is going to come. Nobody in this world can be constantly happy or constantly miserable. That's the nature of this world. Ram, as he walked out from the coronation area, he straight walked into the palace of Kaushalya. So Kaushalya was performing puja over there. Kaushalya always lived a life of neglect. Ram was looking at his mother and he was remembering all her days. Kaushalya was always a neglected wife because Dasharath always favored Kaikeyi more than Kaushalya. And Kaushalya, she accepted her fate. And instead of trying to fight her fate, what she did was, she used her energy and focus in building a Gurukul. So Kaushalya essentially maintained a Gurukul and sponsored a Gurukul where hundreds of poor students could come and study. So her whole goal was, why should I focus on a person who doesn't want my love? Rather, I give my love to those people who need my love. Rather than focusing on how miserable I am, Kaushalya decided to use her time and energy focusing on doing something good to make other people's life happy. So essentially, she used neglect as an opportunity to do something positive to society rather than brooding over her misfortune. Kaushalya, she had made lot of special dishes for Lord Ram to have before he becomes a king. Because from now onwards, the role that she was playing as a mother will not be perfectly implied, because once he becomes a king, then there are different rules that apply. When Kaushalya saw Ram, she ran to him and she said, I have made special dishes for you. Before the coronation, please have. I know you have been fasting. Ram, he knew now he has to break her heart. Essentially, Ram knew to become a selfless leader, many hearts and many expectations have to be broken. And he made himself tough for it. Gold is soft and diamond is hard, but both are valuable. So, diamond like sternness and gold like sensitivity, both are needed to be a good leader. So, at this point of time, Ram is going to show his sternness. Ram mustered all the courage in his heart and told his mother, this royal seat is no more for me. Father has selected me on a special mission and is sending me to the forest for 14 years. I have come to take your blessings now. And Bharat is going to become the king. From now onwards, he was telling his mother, my meal from today will be roots and fruits, and my drink will be sweet river water and honey. And he said, I know that this will shatter the dreams of you and Sita, but rest assured this will be the welfare for everybody. Kaushalya got bewildered. Kaushalya practically fell unconscious over here. And she became numb. She felt as if she was like a tree that has been axed at the root. So she started speaking to Ram. She said, perhaps I would not be so helpless if I had not had a child at all. The helplessness that I am feeling now, she said, happiness doesn't exist in my dictionary at all. I have always been a neglected wife. I have been a servant of a co-wife. And now I waited patiently for 25 years for this coronation ceremony to happen, and now this. So when Kaushalya says this, she tells Ram's age as Dasa Shaptacha Varshani. The Acharyas give a very interesting commentary on this particular number. So most people, when they study this part of the Ramayana, when they hear Kaushalya speaking the age of Ram as Dasha Shaptacha Varshani, most commentators translate this verse as Ram's age being 17. Dasha Sapta means, Dasha means 10, Sapta means 7. So Dasha Sapta means 17. But the Acharyas say the actual age of Ram was not 17, it was 25. The reason the actual age of Ram was 25 and not 17 was because there is a very interesting way to understand this particular sentence. In Sanskrit, whenever the word cha is used after a number, it means that particular number has to be added again. Dasha Sapta Cha means 7 has to be added again. 10 plus 7 plus 7, that's 24, approximately 25. That's how you get the exact age of Ram. Can you imagine how accurate our acharyas have been? They have been, so that means when the knowledge is passed down in parampara, when the knowledge is handed over in parampara, the acharyas have been so sensitive and so perfect that they have made sure even that one small cha exists. That is known as disciplic succession. So the scriptures which are so intensely powerful, they have been preserved by this disciplic succession in parampara, therefore we can understand it properly. Otherwise there are so many people who can misinterpret it and misrepresent it. So Kaushalya, she was very, very disturbed. And she said, I don't even remember how many times I have taken painful vows. I don't even remember how many hours I have spent in meditation. And I don't even remember how many prayers I have offered to the Lord with only one result in mind. The result that you become the king. She said, all those prayers for your well-being, all those hours of meditation and tapasya, it seems has gone to waste. And she tells, just like seeds sown in saline soil are wasted, similarly all my austerities are wasted. What is the meaning of prayers? There are two types of prayers, Sakam prayers and Nishkam prayers. Sakam prayer essentially means that when you pray for a reason, expecting fulfillment of your desire. And Nishkam prayer means when you pray, not expecting the fulfillment of the desire, not because you want something, but you want to develop your love for God. Praying is like exercising. When you pray, it is like exercising in a gym. By exercising, there are two results of an exercise. When you exercise, there are two results essentially. The tangible result of exercise is the shapely body. But the intangible result of exercise is strong immunity. Similarly, the tangible result of prayers is that your desires get fulfilled. The intangible result of prayers is that you get freedom from anarthas, from misgivings. So it's not that prayers only work if you get results that you are seeking, you are desiring. Prayers work because they give intangible results which you may not be able to see physically, but your heart gets purified. So Kaushalya, she is telling Ram, prayers are not working, but prayers have worked for her. Just see how prayers have made her a powerful person. She is unaffected by all the negativities and neglect that she has gone through in her life. That's what the result of prayer is. So Kaushalya, she looks at Ram and asks him a question. She asks him, did the king personally tell you to leave Ayodhya and go to the forest? Ram said no. Kaushalya said, if the king did not tell you directly, why you have to follow anybody else's words? Ram realized what direction this whole discussion is going in. So Ram tells Kaushalya, his mother, I am not following anybody's instruction. I am doing my duty. To rescue a person who is drowning, you don't have to wait for the instruction of the person. You jump and rescue immediately. So she says, so he tells that my father is drowning in misery. I don't have to wait for an instruction from him. It's my duty to go and help him. Now, till now, Lakshman has been hearing patiently. Now, Lakshman's fuse bursts. He can't handle it anymore, Lakshman is a typical angry young man, He is not used to all this dialogue bazi and, all these discussions and big dharma, moral principles. He is man of action, So, Lakshman, he starts telling that how can a king surrender his mind to a crazy woman? And he says the command of an unsteady king whose senses of judgment is governed by lust should not be followed at all. Trust cannot be placed on innocent children and incapacitated oldies. Can you imagine Lakshman speaking like that? And it is finding fault in Ram is like finding trying to find a bitter twig of a neem on a mango tree. You can't find bitterness on a mango tree. He says, even Ram's enemies cannot find fault in him. 25 years, I have not heard one person finding even one fault in Ram. So he says, I am going to fight injustice. Ram understands that Lakshmana is getting worked out. Now the crowd is not there. So Ram speaks. Ram tells Lakshman, my mind cannot deviate from the path of dharma even for one moment. Just like a honeybee cannot deviate from the path to nectar. So he says, you may be strong, but I am not strong enough to go against the wishes of my father. For a son, going against the wishes of the father does not represent strength, but rather represents weakness. And he says, Maharshi Kandu, he killed a cow on the instructions of his father, though cow is supposed to be a worshipable animal. Parashuram killed his own mother on the instructions of his father. Sagara, our own ancestors, they dug up the oceans on the instructions of their father. And in front of all this, what has my father asked me to do? Just go to the forest for 14 years. Kaushalya, she tells him, you are always talking about your father's instructions. What about your mother's instruction? I am telling you not to go to the forest. What about that? Ram tells her, first father has given me instruction. I will follow that instruction for 14 years. Then I'll come and follow your instruction. Sequentially, one by one I'll follow. And then to Lakshman he says, our father needs us the most now. We shouldn't add burden to our father. Our father is already in anxiety that I might disobey his words. And mother is in anxiety that how fast I will leave so that the coronation of Bharat can happen. What is expected from an obedient son is releasing the anxiety of the father, relieving the anxiety of the father. He tells Lakshman, what I want you to do is go and get me tree barks to wear. And Ram tells Lakshman philosophically, don't you see the hand of destiny working through this? He says, Kaikai is one person who has been glorifying me so much. She has always loved me, she has always cared for me more than anybody else. How can that person deviate so much if it is not destiny? And he says that sometimes the most meticulously laid plans fail miserably, and sometimes things work out perfectly even though unplanned. How do you understand such changes unless destiny is at play? It's a very interesting thought. To bring a chicken out of an egg, one only needs to wait. Similarly, destiny opens up according to its own accords. You can't make destiny open up in the way you want it to open. So one must learn to respond to events with a deeper philosophical approach. Ram tells Lakshman. And Lakshman, when he hears all this, Lakshman says, hell with destiny. He tells, I will change destiny today. And he tells him, my arrows are not just decorations. He says, if it means to destroy and desolate the entire Ayodhya, I will do it. If Bharat comes in a way, I will kill him. And even if my father comes in a way, I will not hesitate to kill him. Can you imagine what extent Lakshman is going to? Looking at Kaushalya and Lakshman's behavior, Ram makes a statement. He gets up and he says, I, Ram, the descendant of the Ikshvaku dynasty, the Raghu dynasty, am going to the forest instantly on the orders of my father. Walked out. Lakshman and Kaushalya became silent and became completely helpless. Of course, Kaushalya realized that Ram is not going to listen. She invoked blessings from higher powers and gave profuse amount of blessings and good wishes to Ram. Ram fell at her feet and cried tears wetting her feet. And then immediately he got up. Again he became unemotional, equipoised, walked out of the palace of Kaushalya. One mission is solved, Kaushalya. Second mission is waiting, Sita. People want to know why bad things happen to me. Why this happened to me in my life? To the why of life, there are no answers. So essentially, either there are no answers or there are no answers that will satisfy you. Just imagine if a mother is not getting a child and the mother tries to ask this question, why I don't have a child? What answer will satisfy that mother? Medically you can explain what the problems are. Will that satisfy the mother? The mother will go to astrologer. Astrologer can tell 100 reasons why you cannot have a child. Will that satisfy the mother? No, she'll go to somebody else. So essentially, the why cannot be explained. Either most of the whys in life have no answers, or they have no satisfactory answers. If you want to be peaceful, give up the why. There is a factor that is beyond us that determines the game. In chess, you may be a king or you may be a queen. But remember that you are just one more piece on the chessboard. And you are in the hands of somebody else who is playing the game. That's how the game of life is. So, we can learn from the behavior of Ram and Lakshman how to handle, how to see blessings as, how to see the blessings of bad luck. Ram was ready to accept the situation that life had put him in. But Lakshman was trying to deal with it. When you learn to live with what comes to you, what comes your way, you develop patience. And when you learn to deal with what comes your way, you develop confidence. So from Ram, we learn to see that when we look at others, don't judge others. Rather, see their positive intentions in their actions. When we judge ourselves, monitor our actions. We do exactly opposite. When we look at others, we try to judge their intention. And when we look at ourselves, we learn to, not to judge our actions. Others' actions should not be, others' intention should not be doubted. And our actions have to be monitored. Ram, he concluded that going to the forest was his karma or fate, due to some past action, due to some past mistake that he has made. And Lakshman concluded that it was Dasharath's mistake. Just see, Ram personally is not saying it is Dasharath's mistake. Ram is saying it is my karma. So when something happens to you in your life, you shouldn't blame it on others. You shouldn't blame it on some other source, but rather you should consider it as your own karma. But when you see other people's lives, you shouldn't say it is their karma. You should say it is some mistake that somebody has done. So Lakshman didn't tell Ram, you have bad karma, sorry, you have to go through 14 years. Lakshman was angry, he wanted to deal with it. But Ram decided to live with it. So from Ram, we can learn how to take responsibility for the events that happen in our life. And from Lakshman, we can learn that love cannot see mistakes from the objects of love. So Lakshman was happy to be around Ram. He was known as Shesha. The word Shesha means remnant. Lakshman was happy to be known as Ramanuja. Ramanuja means the younger brother of Ram. And he was more happy to be known as Ramanuja than Saumitri, the son of Sumitra. So Lakshman was like a circle. In a circle, his temperament was very angry temperament. Why? Because in a circle, the most important point in the circle is the center. If the center gets disturbed, the whole circle shakes, So Lakshman's center was Ram. And if something happens to Ram, his whole temperament shakes. So throughout the Ramayana, you find that whenever something has gone wrong with Ram, Lakshman gets wild. He can't handle himself. So how to see things that happen in our life positively? Let me tell you a story which is very interesting. At the end of this session, you might remember only this story. One time, so essentially, we keep hearing so many talks and we keep reading so many books. We are like an encyclopedia, we know more than required actually sometimes. And so essentially, I have told you so many things. It is not what I tell you that will help you. It is what you tell yourself that is going to help you. The quality of my communication with the world outside, it determines my success. And the quality of my communication with myself determines my happiness. It is not what happens to you, but how you interpret with what happens to you makes you successful or makes you a failure. most of the times in lives, we don't learn to communicate with ourselves. We are perfect in communicating with the rest of the world. We are perfect in gaining so much knowledge, but we don't know how to teach ourselves what knowledge we have got. So we don't know how to talk to ourselves and convince ourselves about what we have learned. One time there was a lady in a supermarket, and this lady, she had a small child, and this child was crying helplessly, incessantly this child was crying. So this lady, she became, so she was looking at this child, and she was telling this child, she was talking to this child. She said, "Jennifer, relax." The child kept crying, constantly crying. The lady said, "Jennifer, don't react, relax." The child kept crying more and more and more. She said, "Jennifer, don't lose your temper. Don't create a bad scene over here, relax." The child kept crying. There was an old man who was standing next to this lady and observing this whole thing. The old man went to her and she said, "Madam, don't you think you're talking some adult language? Your child is not going to be able to understand this language." And this mother said, "What makes you think I'm talking to her? I'm talking to myself. Jennifer is my name. I'm saying, Jennifer, relax. I'm telling myself to relax." So next time you're stuck in a traffic jam and you're irritated, you tell yourself, "Jennifer, relax." Next time you're standing in a queue in the railway station and somebody jumps the queue and goes ahead, or you're standing in the prasadam line and somebody goes ahead of you, you tell yourself, "Jennifer, relax." Basically, most of us, we want to have a peaceful experience of life. When we go to a hotel, when we go to some place outside with the family, we want to have a peaceful experience, but unfortunately, we create an anxiety-filled experience. We go to experience peace, but actually we become more anxious than peaceful. Why? Because we're not talking to ourselves. So essentially, the quality of my communication to the world outside determines my success. But the quality of my communication to the world inside determines my happiness. So here from this whole story, we find one very important thing. Ram knew how to communicate with himself. The entire world is agitated. Lakshman is agitated. Everyone is agitated. But how is Ram cool? Essentially because some aspects of life cannot be changed. Rather than trying to change some things that you cannot change, we have to tell ourselves, relax. Rather than trying to force somebody else to change who is not going to change, you have to learn not to react. Ram, by this time, he had dealt with Kaushalya nicely, and he walks towards Sita's palace. Sita sees Ram entering, and Sita, she is extremely worried because the palace, something is going wrong in this whole palace. Because though Ram is going to become the king of Ayodhya, there is practically no music playing. Everybody is suddenly become quiet because Ram has entered into the palace of Sita. And the moment people have seen Ram, everybody understands something has gone wrong. All the music stops, all the singing stops, and everybody is in a serious tone. One look at Ram, Sita realizes that now she has to do a different role. For a moment, she closes her eyes and gathers all the compassion in her heart. She realizes that now it is a time for the woman in her to take over. And she becomes calm and she approaches Ram. So, all her life she has always depended on Ram. And now she realizes that Ram needs her compassion. She goes to Ram and asks him, "My dear Lord, what is wrong? Is there anything? Today is the day of the coronation." She said, "I know that you're not affected by power and position. Tell me what's on your mind. Why are you looking so dejected and sad?" When Ram saw Sita, for a few moments, he dropped his guard. To the whole world, he was completely unaffected, equipoised, and very, very focused. But the moment he came in front of Mother Sita, he dropped that guard and he became a little sad and perturbed. Everyone needs someone in his or her life with whom he can remain unjudged. The fear of being judged turns a strong human being into a weak tortoise, depending on the strength of its shell. So essentially, when you come across a person whom you can completely trust, you're ready to drop all your guards. Ram told Sita that a negative situation cannot always be changed to a positive one. But we can always perceive even a negative situation, something positive in it. And he said, ruling the kingdom is like ruling the sea from a small boat. The rough sea of politics will always tossle the boat around, So Ram tells Sita, despite all these unpredictabilities of life, the sharks of adharma cannot follow those who decide to follow dharma. And he says, I am not going to judge a person based on one event. Why is he telling this? He is telling Sita, what I am going to tell you will immediately make you judge Kaikeyi. Don't judge the mother based on one event. Never a person's character can be revealed based on one event. And that's exactly the mistake that we make in relationships. We judge a person, we brand a person based on one event only. She said, Ram says, preparing Mother Sita, Ram tells her that Mother Kaikeyi has redeemed 2 boons from her father, which father gave her long before our birth. So she desires that Bharat becomes the king of Ayodhya, and she desires hardship for me in Dandakaranya. And Ram tells Sita that I am dejected not so much because I have lost the kingdom, but more so because I am going to lose your company for 14 years. After my departure, Ram tells her, Bharat is going to become the king and you have to be ready to tolerate the change. And he tells her, more than tolerance, you have to learn to respect Bharat as a qualified leader and serve him selflessly. And if you notice any lapse on the part of Bharat and Shatrughna, forgive them because treat them like your sons. And he tells Sita that while I'm away in the forest, use your time to gain spirituality, perform deity worship, and make sure that you serve mother and father very nicely because they will be completely sad after my departure. Sita starts laughing. Ram is bewildered. Sita is laughing suddenly, in such a sad situation. And immediately after one instance, Sita starts crying. Sita tells Ram, you wanted me to laugh, right? That's why you're telling me this. She tells Ram, except for the wife, every other relative of a man suffers and enjoys his or her own karma. Every individual has to suffer and enjoy one's own karma, but the wife is the only person, wife and husband, their fate is sealed together. One another's karma affect one another because they're going to live together. So she says, we have enjoyed so many joyous moments together, why do you want to face sorrows alone? And she says, please don't deny me the privilege of suffering with you. Can you imagine Sita's mindset? And she tells Ram that as you walk into the forest, I'll walk ahead of you and clearing the path of thorny grass. I will have my feet pricked by all the thorns and I will consider those thorns to be more pleasant than walking on the rose petals in Ayodhya. The Acharyas explain, Sita uses the word Kushakantakam over here. The word Kushakantakam means thorny grass. But there is a deeper meaning to it that the Acharyas reveal. They say the word Kusha can be split into 2 parts. Ku means earth and Sha means happiness. And Kantakam means obstacles. Kushakantakam means there are some people who are obstacles to the happiness of the earth. So Sita tells Ram, I will go ahead of you and make your path. She is essentially telling about Ravan. Sita goes ahead to Ravan and Ram comes behind her, right? So she's giving an indication towards that. Sita tells a wife is called Ardhagini because she shares the joys and sorrows of her husband. She halves his miseries and doubles his joys. Ram hears Sita and he tells her, your understanding of the forest life is wrong. You are having a very romantic understanding of the forest life. Let me tell you what forest life is. And he tells her that when you hear the roaring of a lion in the day, you will faint. And he tells her the deafening roar, deafening sound of the waterfalls in the night will not give you sleep at all. All day long you are hearing roaring of lion and all night long waterfalls. What will you do? You will have no peace of your mind. And he says, you think that ponds are filled with lotus flowers? You enter one pond, there will be crocodiles waiting to devour you. And he tells her there are so many quicksands in which even elephants can't come out. And he says, starvation and darkness are the greatest fear of human beings. And the sanest human beings will go crazy in starvation, in hunger and in darkness. And he says the heat of the sun is so intense that you can't tolerate it. The ray, it is explained that Sita was so delicate that if one ray of the sun falls on her body, it becomes reddish in color. If one leaf falls on any part of Sita's body, that part becomes red. So delicate Sita was, and Ram is telling her, you can't handle the forest like this. Sita tells Ram, the heat of the sun and the fire on the mountains is nothing compared to the fire of separation from you. And he tells her that these hardships that I will be undergoing, they give me more and more reasons to be completely dependent on you. Sita is compared to a living entity and Ram is compared to God. So Sita is telling that when a person goes through difficulties in life, those difficulties inspire a person to become even more dependent on God. That's the reason difficulties are considered to be assets spiritually. Ram tells Sita, and Sita tells Ram, that the wildest animals will fear seeing you. So when I'm in your company, why do I have to fear? And then Sita tells Ram, let me tell you something that you don't know. She tells him, when I was a small girl, my father called an astrologer, a lady astrologer. And this lady astrologer predicted my future. She said that I will be having a lot of happiness in my life and a lot of resources in my life. But along with that, she said that I will go to the forest 2 times in my life. Sita tells Ram, I don't know about you, I am going to the forest for sure. And then, in spite of saying all this, Ram is just not ready to take her. Ram is still refusing to take her. And then Sita says something that really hits Ram so badly that Ram decides to take her. She tells Ram that today, if my father was here, if Janak, the king of Mithila, was here, and he had seen that you are not taking me with you, he would have said that I have married my girl to a girl who is dressed as a boy. Can you imagine? She is practically slapping him. Ram, when he hears this, he gets completely bewildered. Variety creates more taste. When you're eating something, you need to have a variety of dishes. You can't just be eating one thing. It's very monotonous. You need to have some variety. So similarly, in varied experiences make husband-wife relationships very exciting. When you go through all the experiences together, that creates strong bonding. So, when a person is going through a bad phase and somebody wants to assist, how do you assist? Over here, Sita teaches us 4 concepts that actually somebody who wants to insult another person should follow. Many times you feel that I have the rights to insult other person because I am a husband or a wife, I am a son or a daughter, whatever it is. You have the right over the relationship. But if a person doesn't follow all the 4, he doesn't have the right to do that. So, can disagreements bring agreements in life? Sita disagreed with Ram. But by disagreeing with Ram, she actually insulted Ram also. What does it show us? So essentially, Sita represents a self-confident wife, and such a wife has 4 roles to play. And if all the 4 roles are balanced very nicely, the relationship is very good. The first role is the role to complement. P-L-I, complete. Complement means One of the qualities of the wife is that she wants to praise the good qualities of the husband, appreciate the good qualities of the husband. So that means to be able to appreciate the good qualities of somebody else, you have to be able to meditate on that person's good qualities. Many times I ask people to appreciate somebody else. I'll tell you, people struggle so much. The greatest struggle people have is finding good qualities in somebody whom they love. Can you imagine? You know? So the first quality of first role of a wife is to compliment. The second role of a wife is to complement. PLE. Complement means that each person has to know one's own strengths and weaknesses. A person who compliments has to be like a shadow. A shadow is attached to the feet, but the shadow has very interesting roles. When the sun is in the front, the shadow is behind. And when the sun is in the back, the shadow is ahead. Which means that Sita is telling Ram that when the sun is ahead, when everything has been good in life, Sita just follows Ram. And the moment something goes wrong in life, Sita goes ahead of Ram trying to help him solve the problems. She just doesn't follow. So complement means each one has strength and weakness. My weakness can be your strength and your weakness is my strength. So we assist each other, complement each other. The third quality that a wife has to exhibit is to care. That means unless it's very interesting, before this section of the Ramayana, there is 12 years Ram and Sita have been already married. But there is no story, hardly any story of the care and love of Ram and Sita for 12 years. So care is most needed when a person goes through difficulties. So the need of love and care is magnified during difficulties. So now onwards you will see in the Ramayana there is so much care that Sita is taking because the difficulties are much greater. And of course, Ram also is taking equal care of her during the difficulties. So before this there is not much mention of the love and the care that both of them are showing each other. Normally, in normal life, care and love is shown when everything is normal, everything is nice. And the moment something goes wrong, you begin to look around and nobody is around you. And the fourth thing is to correct. The fourth role of a wife is to correct. One has to be very intelligent and sensitive in being able to correct. Only when you know that this is the time to correct, that time you have to correct. Sita is known as Dharmacharini. Janak hands over Sita to Ram, telling Ram that this is Dharmacharini. Dharmacharini means the one who knows her dharma. Dharma of a wife is to follow the husband when the husband is right, following the path of dharma. And the moment the husband deviates from the path of dharma, the dharma of the wife is to correct him. So essentially, if the proportion of the four roles that a wife plays is close to perfect, the relationship will be healthy. Only then negative emotions can be used to show positive love. So Sita is using heavy negative emotion, but through this negative emotion, she is going to use a lot of positive love also. By saying this, Sita knew she had hurt Ram very badly. But she also knew that she was doing this only so that she gets a chance to give love to Ram for 14 years. So essentially, Sita resolved that the next 14 years, she will be constantly using these 14 years to show her service and love for Ram and to cover over the hurt that she has given to Ram now. So Sita asks Ram a question. Do you know what is hell and what is heaven? What is Swarga and what is Naraka? Ram gets bewildered. Suddenly she just insulted me and now she's asking me a question. And Sita doesn't wait for him to answer. She herself answers. She says, Swarga and Naraka, heaven and hell are contextual. Different people, different things. For me, heaven is hell without you and hell is heaven with you. She answers like this to Ram. And she says that without you, these 14 years will be like visiting 14 hellish planets. Ram immediately agrees to take Sita along with him. Ram tells her, from your perspective, the role of a wife is to share the joy and sorrow of the husband. But from my perspective, my role is to be a caring husband and I have to constantly think about your comforts and protection. I do not want to call you myself. Because if I called you myself, thinking about my comforts, thinking about my joys, I am not sensitive towards your discomfort. So Ram says, I have not called you because I wanted you to tell me that you want to come. So just see, it's very interesting how both of them are sensitive towards one another's needs, interests and concerns, and therefore the relationship is very stable. Sita does 3 roles in the Ramayana. Sita, the first role is of Shri Tattva. Sita is the eternal consort of Lord Ram. She can never be separated from Lord Ram. Just like the sunshine cannot be separated from the sun, fragrance cannot be separated from flower, similarly Sita cannot be separated from Ram. The second role of Sita is that she is like a living entity, Jiva Tattva. As Jiva Tattva, Sita is teaching us how a living entity should behave at the very thought of being separated from God. At the very thought of being separated from God, a living entity should feel miserable. If you don't chant one day, you should feel miserable. If you feel happy, something is wrong. If you don't connect to God one day, you should feel miserable. That's what Sita is trying to show here. Ram said, I want to disconnect from you 14 years. Sita became miserable. And the third role of Sita is as a guru. And in the role of a guru, she's showing how the role of the guru is to correct a mistake and show the right path. So Sita is doing all the 3 roles in this particular pastime. Now, Sita is ready to go along with Ram. Ram tells Sita, distribute all your wealth and get ready to come with me. And he goes and embraces Lakshman. As soon as Ram embraces Lakshman, Lakshman realizes he has no plan to take me. Lakshman says, hey, wait a minute, I'm coming with you. Lakshman, he tells Ram, why did you change your mind? You had initially agreed to take me along with you, and why you are not taking me now? Ram says, when did I say that? Ram hardly never spoke to Lakshman at all till now. Lakshman is saying, I had already agreed to take. So Lakshman says, you may not have directly promised me like this, but your words indicated just that. He says, when you are talking to Mother Kaushalya and you're telling that you are going to the forest, you use the word we. You are a humble person. And a humble person in front of superiors doesn't address himself as we, respectfully, So he says, we, that means you have said plural. And he said, in Sanskrit, there are 2 types of vachans. There is bahuvachan, there is dvivachan, there is bahuvachan. Dvivachan means when you refer to 2 people. And bahuvachan means when you refer to multiple people, more than 2. He said, when you are referring to yourself, you used not dvivachan, you used bahuvachan. That means you assumed that you are going to take me with you. And besides that, when you are telling Sita about how she should take care of all the relatives, when you have gone to the forest, you referred to Bharat, you referred to Shatrughan, you referred to Kaushalya, you didn't refer to me at all. That means you assume that I am coming with you. Ram realized that Lakshman is too clever, and then of course Ram told a few other things to try to push Lakshman, but Lakshman just didn't budge. Then Ram agreed to take Lakshman along with him. So essentially, after that, Ram distributed all his wealth to the needy and the poor people, and Ram was walking away. At that point of time, an old Brahmana comes. His name is Trijata. So Trijata, he comes and he stands in front of Ram, and he is asking for some charity. By this time, Ram has given everything away. He doesn't have anything. So Ram, he looks at Trijata and he smiles. He has a very naughty type of smile over here. Sita gets bewildered, in this such a serious situation. Why is Ram smiling like this? Ram tells Trijata, I'm sorry, I have given all my wealth away in charity, but I have one thing left for you. He said, across the river Sarayu, standing across the river, is a whole bunch of cows, thousands of cows. All these cows belong to me. He said, you can take as many cows as you want, but on one condition. Trijata got confused now, what condition Ram is putting. Ram says, you have to throw your stick. You throw your stick, and how far your stick falls, that many cows you can take. Now Sita is bewildered with such a condition that Ram puts. The Sarayu river is so far away from the palace, and the cows are much further from the Sarayu. How can this old man throw his stick so far? What is Ram trying to do? So Trijata realizes that he has to do it. Ram has told. So Trijata tightens his belt, takes a stick and swirls it around and throws it with full speed. And to the shock of everyone, the stick goes across the palace. It goes across all the windows It goes all across all the lanes of streets of Ayodhya, crosses the river Sarayu and falls across all the cows and lands next to a bull. Practically thousands of cows have been covered. Practically all the cows that are there have been covered. Ram, he looks at Trijata and he smiles. And he says, sorry for testing you, but I wanted to show the world something important. So through Trijata, Ram taught the world 4 lessons. So the first lesson Ram taught the world is that who is weak and who is strong is not a matter of externals, but matter of internal strength. Trijata may have been weak externally, but Ram wanted to show the world that he is strong spiritually, internally. Inner strength also matters. The second lesson Ram wanted to teach was that one should deserve before one desires. So nothing in this world should be given without any efforts. So Trijata wanted to ask some charity. Ram made him do some work before giving charity. Human action, the third lesson is that human action, when it is supported by God's grace, it can possess unlimited potentials. That means the combination of effort and grace leads you to success. Trijata put his efforts and Ram's grace also followed, and therefore he got success. And the fourth thing Ram did was he found fault in his own thought process. As soon as he did this experiment with Trijata, Ram begged forgiveness from Trijata, teaching that finding fault with your own thought process is an important aspect of growth. So immediately asking forgiveness is very important. So after Trijata went away, Ram, Lakshmana and Sita left their palace, walked towards the palace of Dasharath. And the last scene of the drama is happening here. Kaushalya, she was in anxiety. She ran to Dasharath's palace and she wanted to ask him only one question. Why for Bharat to become the king, Ram has to go to exile? She only was confused about this. She had no problem with Bharat becoming the king because Bharat was also her son. She had no problem with kingship as such. She only wanted to know why Ram has to go to the forest for Bharat to become the king. She feared Dasharath. She feared Kaikeyi, but she had hope on Dasharath. And she knew both her fear and hope are together now. So when the source of your hope and the source of your fear come together, they give birth to the child of uncertainty. So Kaushalya went very confused over there. And when she entered the room, she saw Dasharath was lying lifeless. And she began to cry like anything. And Vashishta entered the room and he told Kaikeyi, give up your desires. She said, if the king doesn't fulfill his promise, I will die. So Vashishta blasts Kaikeyi like anything. And finally, Dasharath, he also starts blasting Kaikeyi. And she tells her, in front of my spiritual master, I declare that you are no more my wife. And if Bharat, he follows your footsteps, then he is no more my son, he cannot do my last rites at all. Vashishta, in the meanwhile, he went out, declared to the entire Ayodhya that the coronation is not going to happen. Bharat is going to become the king eventually. The entire city was frustrated. There was only one person smiling in the entire city. That was Manthara. Manthara had no one to love. She had no family to care for, and she took no responsibility for people she depended on. Because she was an emotionally weak person, an emotionally weak person attempts to grab security through being insensitive. So Manthara was insensitive. She didn't even have one tear in her eyes. She was so insensitive because she never ever experienced love, nor she ever gave love to anybody in her life. And therefore, she didn't know what is going on in so many people's hearts. So when all the people saw Sita, Ram and Lakshman walking without the chariot, walking towards, they all went crazy. They started crying like anything. Finally, Ram entered the palace of Dasharath and he came up to Dasharath and he wanted to speak something. And before Ram spoke something, Dasharath told Sumantra, call all my wives. 350 women entered the palace. All the wives, 353 wives of Dasharath, they're standing in that one room now. And Ram tells Dasharath, I am leaving Ayodhya along with Sita and Lakshman because they are just not ready not to come. Dasharath, he told Ram, Ram, imprison me. You rule Ayodhya and imprison me. By telling this, you know what Dasharath was saying? Dasharath telling Ram, you broke the rules, you break the rules, I will not break. He tells Ram that he essentially is telling his attachment to Kaikeyi is so strong, much stronger than his attachment to Ram also. Ram tells Dasharath, for the sake of comforts, I don't want unrighteousness to be in your life. He says, don't worry, these 14 years will be like a long walk for me. I'll come back soon. And in the midst of all this discussion, Kaikeyi speaks something. She says, let Ram go. Don't waste your time in all these useless sentiments. Dasharath, he gets wild. Everybody over there gets furious on Kaikeyi. And finally, Sumantra, he gets very angry on Kaikeyi. He tells Kaikeyi, you are a fool. Can you imagine? Chariot driver telling the queen of that land, you are a fool. He says, you are an adamant fool. And he tells her, you are just like your mother. Everybody gets shocked because they don't understand what Sumantra is trying to say. Sumantra is a Suta. Suta means chariot driver, and Suta also means a thread. So a thread weaves and connects things, joins things. Similarly, Sumantra has knowledge of so many things that he connects them at the right time. So here, Sumantra is going to tell a story of the past. Manthara gave bad advice and Sumantra gave good advice. The word Su means good in Sanskrit. Both Sumantra and Mantra held deep secrets in their heart. So Mantra revealed the secrets to create anarchy, to create disunity. And Sumantra revealed the secrets to create harmony. This is the difference between the two. Sumantra said, Ashwapati, the king of Kaikeya, the father of Dasharath, he had a boon. The boon that he had was that he could understand the language of animals. But along with that boon, he had a bane. He had the condition along with the boon. Everything comes with the asterisks, conditions applied. The condition of this boon was that though he could understand the language of the animals, he could not share it with anybody else. Whatever he heard, he can't share with others. So what is the use of this kind of entertainment? You laugh only for yourself. You can't share the joke with others also. So one time Ashwapati was walking with his wife in a garden, and two birds were mating and they were talking to each other. And Ashwapati suddenly laughed because he heard a joke. So his wife asked him, the mother of Kaikeyi asked him, why did he laugh? He said, I can't tell you. She said, no, you have to tell me. Why did he laugh? He tells her, these two birds were talking and they were talking something funny, so I laughed. She tells, tell me what they were telling. She says, no, I can't tell. If I tell, I'll die. She says, no problem, die, but tell me. Sumantra tells Kaikeyi, you are like your mother only. Adamant. Ashwapati kicked her out of the kingdom. And Sumantra tells, I know Dasharath can't do the same thing. He is weak. He is not like Ashwapati. Can you imagine? Sumantra in front of everyone chastising the king and the queen so badly. And then finally, Kaikeyi starts saying, why are you all making big fuss out of it? Don't you know history? She says that King Sagara of our own dynasty, he kicked out his son Ashmanjas into the forest. She says that, if Ashmanjas can be kicked out of the forest, why can't Ram be kicked out? All the people get bewildered with the comparison. Ashmanjas was such a cruel person in the kingdom, he would kill small babies, drowning them in the water. And because he was so cruel, King Sagara couldn't tolerate him and he kicked him out of the kingdom. He said, why are you comparing Ram with Ashmanjas? There's no comparison only. So somehow this lady was so cruel. So Ram was unaffected by all this commotion that was going on. Everything was being discussed in front of him only. Can you imagine? So Ram, he tells everyone, when a person has given away an elephant, why should he be attached to the chain of the elephant? So he says, I have given up the royal throne, doesn't make sense for me to hanker for all these royal things. And Ram tells Kaikeyi, do me one favor, just give me a crowbar, a spade, a basket and garments made of tree bark. That's it, I don't want anything else from you. Kaikeyi already made that ready, she got it. And she told Ram, Lakshmana and Sita to wear. And as Sita was wearing those garments, it was not fitting at all. People who became sad seeing Sita wearing such coarse wear. And everyone started shouting at Kaikeyi. And finally, Kaikeyi agreed that Sita not wear those coarse wear and Ram and Lakshmana wear that coarse wear. And finally, all of them went ahead. By this time, all of them were ready to march out of Ayodhya. Ram, Lakshmana and Sita walked out of the palace and climbed on the chariot. And as Ram, Lakshmana and Sita climbed on the chariot, Dasharath came running down with his 353 wives, running to try to stop Ram from going. Dasharath tells Sumantra, who is driving the chariot, "Stop the chariot, stop the chariot." Ram, he hears the command of his father, turns to Sumantra and tells him, "Go fast, go fast." Now Sumantra is confused. King is telling to go fast and king is telling to stop and the prince is telling to go. He doesn't know what to do. Ram gives him a solution. He tells him, "You go fast now, and when you come back, tell my father, if he asks you why you didn't stop, there was too much noise going on, I couldn't hear your command." Ram tells Sumantra to lie. Can you imagine? Ram is Maryada Purushottam, the one who never lies in his life, and he is telling Sumantra to lie. So, what is truth? What is really truth? So can Ram be considered to be untruthful because he told Sumantra to lie? Or was Dasharath actually truthful because he sacrificed his son for following the truth? The result of truth is not expected to be suffering. Suffering is not the expected result of truth, of following the truth. So if Sumantra had stopped the chariot as per Dasharath's instructions, it would not have given solace to Dasharath, it would have given more suffering to Dasharath. So Ram did not want to prolong the pain of Dasharath and he wanted to end the pain of Dasharath, and therefore he told Sumantra to go fast. So in general, when Punya and Papa is defined, it is defined in this way. Punya is something that is defined as something that decreases the pain of somebody else. And Papa means inflicting pain on others. So by decreasing the pain of Dasharath's life, Ram was not really being a liar. So there are two types of truths in this world: relative truth and absolute truth. A relative truth may be a truth to somebody and a lie to somebody else. But an absolute truth does not vary. Absolute truth refers to God. And therefore, Dasharath's truthfulness therefore increased the pain of all the citizens of Ayodhya, and Ram's truthfulness decreased the pain of Dasharath. Finally, Dasharath watched the chariot speed away. He fell down unconscious. From that day, Ram got another name. His name was Drishti Chitta Apahari. That means the one who steals the heart through the eyes. So, with the eyes of Dasharath, his heart was being stolen and taken away by Ram. Dasharath collapsed, and along with the collapse of Dasharath, practically the entire Ayodhya collapsed. All the dreams of so many people shattered along with Dasharath. And along with Ram going away, thousands of people were in agony. We will allow Ram to go to the forest now. And what happens from the time Ram proceeds to the forest, we will discuss it some other time. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.